Hello everyone, welcome to Baji and Ravi IAS Academy. So we'll discuss today's most important news articles in this session. Right, yesterday I have given you a question about Abraham Accord. See, this is very important question as far as the UPSC prelims is concerned. So I have also asked you to comment the right answer in the comment box. So I'm giving you the answer. The correct answer is Israel, UAE, and Bahrain. These countries have signed the Abraham Accord. So now, in this context, let's discuss what is Abraham Accord, right? So the Abraham Accord is brokered by USA. So this is to normalization of this is a normalization agreement, normalization of relations between UAE and Israel. So this results in establishment of a formal diplomatic relations. Later, this agreement also joined by Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco. These countries are now also part of the Abraham Accord. And this accord is in exchange of Israel's attempts to Israel's plans to suspend the annexation parts of occupied West Bank. In Israel, there are two very contested regions. One is West Bank, and the other region is Gaza Strip. So, thereby becoming UAE is the first Gulf country to establish diplomatic and economic relationship with Israel. So, yes, UAE is the first Gulf country. Before UAE, there are two other countries also. They are Egypt and Jordan. They also established a diplomatic relationship with Israel that led to the normalization of ties between the Arab world and Israel, and there will be a less volatility in the region. So that is very important for the regional stability and peace. Okay. So this is the today's question. Uh, I request everyone, please comment the answer, comment the correct answer below. Right. Uh, the question is which of these African states border Mediterranean Sea? See, the regions around Mediterranean Sea and the countries bordering Mediterranean Sea is a very favorite topic for UPSC. Every year, even in 2022, also there was a question, Levant, what is Levant? The countries in the eastern border of Mediterranean Sea. So therefore, carefully study the Mediterranean Sea and also mark countries around the Mediterranean Sea. It will definitely help you score extra marks in UPSC, right? So, which of these African states border Mediterranean Sea? Options are Egypt, Tunisia, Chad, Niger. So, please comment the correct answer in the comment box. Okay. So, let's get into the discussion of today's most important news articles, right? So, the first news article for today's discussion is uh, recently, the Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida uh, visit uh, visited India, right? So in this context, it is important to understand the Japan centrality in the Indo-Pacific region, right? Indo-Pacific region has been gaining significance in recent times, right? So first, understand what is the significance of Indo-Pacific region and where it is located, and then we will discuss this article in a comprehensive manner, right? So this is the Indo-Pacific region. So this region you can see, Indo-Pacific region, it includes Indian Ocean and the Western Pacific Ocean. And countries which are part of Indo-Pacific region are India, China, the Asian region. So this is together the Asian region, 10 member countries of Asian grouping. And along with this, Australia is also part of Indo-Pacific, New Zealand, and then USA. So all these countries together constitute the Asian region. Don't forget Japan and South Korea. So they are also part of Indo-Pacific. So they together, this region together called as an Indo-Pacific region. Let's understand the significance of the Indo-Pacific region. Indo-Pacific region is one of the most populous and economically active regions of the world. Yeah, of course, this is the most populous because the first and second largest populous countries in the world, India and China, are located in Indo-Pacific region. And this is also one of the economically active regions of the world, right? So that includes continents like Asia, Africa, Australia, and US, America. So these continents are also included in the Indo-Pacific concept. You can see the Eastern African region will also be part of the Indo-Pacific region. So the dynamism and the vitality of the region is self-evident. So the 60% of the world's population live in this region, and two-thirds of the global economic output is also uh, uh, in this region, emerged from this region, and this is a global economic center. Because traditionally, the Asian countries and China known for their strong manufacturing capabilities and strong supply chain resilience, right? The region is also a great source of a foreign direct investment, right? Because of cheap labor and availability of necessary infrastructure, this region attracts a large amounts of foreign direct investments. And the vast reserves of marine resources in the Indian Ocean, not just the fishery, marine resources. It is not just about the marine economy, the blue economy, but it is also about the polymetallic nodules and other minerals present in these regions. For example, why China has been very frequently claiming that the South China Sea belongs to China, because South China Sea is known for uh, resources, mineral resources, oil and natural gas. So therefore, China have been climbing the South China Sea region, right? Uh, this region is vast reserve of marine resources in the Indian and Pacific oceans combined. This includes hydrocarbons. The petroleum and natural gas are together called as hydrocarbons. This also include methane hydrates, seabed minerals, and rare earth metals. Polymetallic nodules, rare earth metals are same, right? So a sizable coastline and exclusive economic zones. Do you know United Nations Convention on Law of Seas, UN Clause 1982, designated this maritime zones as five boundaries, right? So one such boundary is exclusive economic zone up to 200 nautical miles. So these countries have a sizable coastlines and exclusive economic zones also. That provides littoral countries with competitive capabilities and an opportunity to exploit the resources for the benefit of the countries. Okay. In turn, a number of world's largest economies are located in the Indo-Pacific region. For example, India, USA, China, Japan, South Korea. They're the largest economies and they are located in the Indo-Pacific region. So because of these reasons, the Indo-Pacific region is very significant. And it is also held that the future of the world is dependent on the Indo-Pacific, the sustainability of the Indo-Pacific region. Now, in this context, it is important that how India and Japan are together working to ensure that the open and inclusive Indo-Pacific is ensured in the region, right? So this article is discussed in this context, the Indo-Pacific geopolitical construct and India's role, Japan role, right? So in this article, uh, it is discussed that Japanese Prime Minister paid a visit to India on March 2023, right? Uh, so see, India this year uh, is holding a presidency of G20, and Japan member of G20 and G7 also holding a presidency of G7. So in this context, it is important for Japan to have, uh, you know, a robust uh, relations with different countries, right? I mean, this is important to ensure that free and open Indo-Pacific region. See, you can see Japan's new plan for a free and Indo-Pacific region has been unveiled by the Japanese Prime Minister. So he exchanged his views of deepening Japan and India's strategic and global partnership. Japan and India have a special and a strategic partnership. One, and Japan is one of the biggest investors in India's infrastructure, and India allow only Japan to invest in the sensitive North East India, and both India and Japan together providing infrastructure in the African region, Asia Africa growth corridor, right? So this is a counter to China's Belt and Road initiative. Okay. Now, in this context, uh, why the Japanese Prime Minister have been proposing the free and open Indo-Pacific region. Now, how this region is very important for not just for Russia, but for the entire world, right? He is proposing the concept of free and open Indo-Pacific region is primarily based on few ongoing global issues. One is the changing geopolitical landscape, the current geopolitical landscape. So, how the current geopolitical landscape is emerging is because the Russia-Ukraine war, the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, and Chinese assertiveness. Nowadays, China has become more assertive in the South China Sea, and even with Japan and at India's borders. So this has been extensively discussed. China's assertiveness in the South China Sea, East China Sea, East China Sea, where Japan is located, right? So Indian line of actual control in these areas, and even Taiwan Strait also, uh, because China consider Taiwan as their sovereign territory, but Taiwan consider itself as an independent nation from China. So therefore, there have been tensions in the Taiwan Strait. Okay, so this new plan of this Indo-Pacific free and open Indo-Pacific lays a stress on the need to uphold the rules-based order. So very often you hear the word rules-based order. Rules-based order is an international law. Nations should respect the international rules. Okay, so nations should respect international law, international rules. For example, in the context of China, a UN clause given a judgment in favor of Asian countries with regard to South China Sea. However, China uh, not consider the judgment because the judgment was delivered against China. So China opposes the judgment and not implementing the judgment. So therefore, whenever the issue is related to Indo-Pacific region, you very often hear that rules-based order and respecting each other's territorial sovereignty. For example, Russia has been building uh, territories, the artificial islands in the South China Sea and East China Sea. So this is in opposition to uh, respecting the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the member nations, right? And so apart from this, uh, so the free and open Indo-Pacific once again to propose a guiding perspective. to be shared by the international community. So, I mean, this will be a perspective. This contains a set of principles, and this guides the world. What would be the way forward on Indo-Pacific? How countries collectively act for the peace, prosperity, and stability of the Indo-Pacific region has been given in this article. And when it comes to the Indo-Pacific region, you very often hear that free, open, rules-based Indo-Pacific. And India also share a common interest that Indo-Pacific um, should not be a limited, should not be a territory of any country, but rather it is a common region for all the countries, benefit of all the countries. Freedom of overflight, freedom of navigation are also concerns with regard to the Indo-Pacific region. So let's discuss the challenges before the Indo-Pacific region. What are the challenges before the Indo-Pacific region? So Japan's new policy of free and open Indo-Pacific region faces following challenges. So one such challenge is Ukraine war. Russia attacked Ukraine in last year, February. One challenge is Ukraine war, food security, and cyberspace. So these are the main challenges, right? So along with ensuring the freedom of seas, freedom of the seas, connectivity, among others, are some of the challenges, right? Because there was lack of consensus at the global scale about what constitutes a rules-based order. Even Indo-Pacific also, there's lack of consensus. Different countries perceive Indo-Pacific as differently. For example, there's an Asian centrality, and also the concept of Japan centrality, and even China and Russia never consider the Indo-Pacific region as actually an Indo-Pacific. It is an Asia-Pacific. They consider it as a, Indo-Pacific is a limited club of nations, not the a wider conception. So these are some of the concerns. Ukraine war, food security, cyberspace are some of the challenges emanating in the Indo-Pacific region. So why not just there's a lack of consensus on the Indo-Pacific, but also there is a lack of consensus of countries over the Russia-Ukraine war, right? So, for example, different countries uh, supporting Russia, different countries are opposing Russia's invasion of Ukraine, violating its sovereignty and territorial integrity. So, this also poses a challenge for the Indo-Pacific as a concept. But even though there are differences, even though there are different views over the Indo-Pacific and Russia-Ukraine war, but there is a belief that there's a belief that the free and open Indo-Pacific, please remember this, free and open Indo-Pacific will be able to work and embrace diverse voices, right? For example, different voices, different parties have different concerns. They're coming together, they're discussing these issues so that uh, it will be able to accommodate different voices, create an atmosphere of cooperation and collaboration. This is very important. So rather than division and confrontation among different member states, rather than division and confrontation among different member states, because through divisions and confrontations you cannot achieve anything, but through cooperation and collaboration, the Indo-Pacific together wanted to achieve certain goals, right? Certain goals means free and open Indo-Pacific, rules-based Indo-Pacific, freedom of navigation, freedom of overflight. The resources should be collectively used for the benefit of the region. So these are some of the common goals, and these goals can be achieved only through cooperation and collaboration. So which is very well said, right? So in this free and open Indo-Pacific concept, Japan rightly recognized the critical role India can play to ensure that the Indo-Pacific region is peaceful and prosperous, right? So you can see here indispensable partner for Japan. India is an indispensable partner for Japan in the Indo-Pacific region. Uh, we already know that both India, Japan are already part of the Quad grouping, right? The Quadrilateral Dialogue, and both India and Japan are also conducting Malabar naval exercises in the Indo-Pacific region. So the exercises are primarily meant to ensure that the maritime security and protecting the blue economy and humanitarian assistance and disaster relief are some of the objectives of these maritime exercises. So let's discuss this article in detail further. The foundation. Uh, See, Japan needs to do much within the region because Japan have the necessary capacity and capability. For example, in terms of investment, Japan is one of the largest economy in the world. It is uh, the uh, the fourth largest economy in the world. So therefore, Japan have the capability to do more in the region in terms of infrastructure investment, in terms of countering Chinese influence in the region. So there are four pillars identified for cooperation and collaboration within the Indo-Pacific region. So under uh, this Indo-Pacific free and open Indo-Pacific region, there are four principles identified. So the principle one is uh, so these principles for peace and rules for prosperity, right? So the first principle is the principles for peace and rules for prosperity. So any organization, any grouping, the major objective is in the region, beyond the region, peace and prosperity of the member countries, so that the people can live a, a healthy life, a prosperous life. People can enjoy the benefits of growth and development collectively. So a sustainable scale of development could be achieved. So in order to achieve this, the first pillar, uh, so for example, Japan says that the major impediment to achieve the first pillar, or the countries most vulnerable, uh, so the vulnerable countries usually suffer the most if there is an erosion in the rule of law. For example, um, there are several vulnerable countries. Even if you look at the Eastern African region, India's neighbors, Myanmar, now currently under military junta, right? So uh, they are most vulnerable countries. They are poor countries. They're backward countries. If rule of law erodes in these countries would suffer with internal conflicts, civil wars, and military rules. So therefore, Japan says that vulnerable countries would lack, most vulnerable poor countries would lack peace and prosperity. So therefore, in order to achieve that, Japan wants to engage in economic development programs of, investment in infrastructure, social infrastructure, right? The physical infrastructure, building railways and hydroelectricity projects, social infrastructure in terms of schools, healthcare institutions, so that uh, the peace and prosperity as enshrined in the first principle, the first pillar, could be achieved. So here you can see the quality infrastructure investment through this initiative. The first goal, the first goal is peace and prosperity could be achieved, right? So the second goal is addressing challenges in Indo-Pacific way, right? This is the second pillar. This second pillar. So addressing the challenges in Indo-Pacific way. What does this mean? This means that expansion of cooperation, collaboration. There are challenges, no doubt. Earlier we have discussed there are multiple challenges. For example, Chinese assertiveness in the region, violating the rules-based order. Some of the challenges through cooperation and collaboration, not through division and confrontation, could be achieved. Uh, the second pillar could be achieved. So incorporating realistic and practical projects, especially in the areas of climate change, food security, global health, and cybersecurity, because they are earlier identified as challenges, common challenges in the Indo-Pacific region, and these challenges could be addressed in a in an Indo-Pacific way, right? So even Japan would go bilaterally. For example, in the case of in Asia Africa Growth Corridor, Japan along with India building this corridor. Okay, or through multilateral partnerships, Japan would invest in these projects to collaboration and cooperation of different countries. So there's a third pillar to it. What is the third pillar? It is a multi-layered connectivity. Connectivity is very important for trade and investment, people to people ties, and in the uh, Indo-Pacific region, connectivity is very important to further increase the intra-regional trade. And Chinese have mooted the idea of Belt and Road Initiative. However, the countries, the poor and vulnerable countries, have been struggling with the debt trap because of Chinese loans with higher interest rates. So therefore, Japan have come up with an alternative, right? So the uh, how the third pillar could be achieved. Uh, there are three areas identified for introducing more such projects for connectivity in South Asia, and South Pacific Island countries. Right, South Pacific Island countries are, um, Fiji, Tuvalu. So they are Micronesia. They are South Pacific Island countries. India and Bangladesh, they comes under South Asia. Southeast Asian countries are Asian countries. So what Japan has been doing to improve the connectivity in the region. Japan have committed for 100 million for improving the connectivity, right? So this is under the third pillar, and $100 million towards the Japan and Asian Integration Fund. So Japan allocated $100 million under Japan Asian Integration Fund. So this will help meet the third pillar of Japan's free and open Indo-Pacific strategy, right? And it will also promote Bay of Bengal, Northeast India industrial value chain. Remember earlier we discussed that India allowed only Japan to invest in infrastructure projects, developmental projects in the northeastern region. So now the Bay of Bengal and Northeast India industrial value chain concept cooperation with India. So this is part of developing infrastructure in the South Asian region, and even with Bangladesh also, and the new Palau. This is Palau is the southern Pacific island, and Japan also focused on increasing infrastructure in the southern Pacific islands. So international airport terminal project, the archipelago in West Pacific Ocean. So this airport terminal is also being developed by Japan. Okay. So but the fourth pillar is the safety, maritime security, and this is discussed in the fourth pillar. So Japan will help strengthening the capabilities of maritime law enforcing agencies. See, Indo-Pacific region has a vast ocean, so therefore, rule of law, protection of the rule of law in the Indo-Pacific region is very significant. Erosion of rule of law would result in significant challenges within the region. So therefore, Japan would help strengthen the capabilities of maritime law enforcement agencies in other countries. Towards these objectives, Japan will implement the strategic use of official development assistance. What is official development assistance? Few countries in their annual budgets allocate a certain amount of money for the development of other countries. So these countries can invest in creation of infrastructure in the region, and also strengthening their existing capabilities at the grassroots levels. This is called as an official developmental assistance. This assistance will be given by Japan to poor and vulnerable countries within the region to strengthen their capacities. Right? And there will be a private capital mobilization also. The private capital, along with the official development assistance from the government side, private capital mobilization will also be uh, uh, taken care of, so that it amounts to a total of 75 billion in public and private funds in the Indo-Pacific region by 2030 in infrastructure development. Right? And what is Tokyo's role? What is ultimately what is the Tokyo's role in the Indo-Pacific region? So Tokyo's role is the centrality of the Japan in the emerging geopolitical situation in the Indo-Pacific. Centrality. So we discussed the Asian centrality in the Indo-Pacific region. Now Japan's centrality, uh, centrality of Japan as in the emerging Indo-Pacific concept. See, for the examination point of view, Indo-Pacific region is very important. So, because now India is also part of the Indo-Pacific, and India is a proactive player in the Indo-Pacific region. So, Japan considers Ukraine today maybe East Asia tomorrow because of Chinese assertiveness. These comments were made. Japan may attack, China may attack any country in the East Asian region. For example, the with respect to Taiwan also. So Japan consider this Ukraine today, maybe East Asia tomorrow. So which shows Japan's concern for growing Chinese belligerence in the region, right? So they wanted to uphold peaceful, rules-based international order and putting forward policies, mechanisms under the free and open Indo-Pacific region to stabilize regional order. Yes, stabilization of regional order is very important because of the Chinese assertiveness, one, Ukraine-Russia conflict, and the food and fuel crisis. All because of all these reasons, there has been instability in the region and beyond the region as well. So Japan is deeply invested in the Indo-Pacific stability and prosperity. This is certainly a good news for India and with wider region, because Japanese investments are not like Chinese investments. Japan and even India invest in other countries with a view to develop and strengthen the capabilities of the respective countries, not with ill intentions. So deep engagement of Japan within the region would counter the Chinese influence in the region, and this will help India. And this is certainly a good news for India. So this is all about Indo-Pacific and India's role in the Indo-Pacific. What are the Japan's concerns in the Indo-Pacific region? Okay, we have seen the Indo-Pacific region, and in map what are the areas which part of the Indo-Pacific, and we also uh, discussed the significance of the Indo-Pacific region. So now let's discuss the other important news article. Right. So this is also very important news article, the same-sex marriages, a matter of parliament. So what is this same-sex marriage? So let's look into it. What is the same-sex marriages? So this is Supreme Court recently issued a notice to the center. Over a few group of individuals have filed a petition in Supreme Court to recognize same-sex marriage. Same-sex marriage is a marriage between two male or marriage between two female. It is in opposition to a marriage between a biological male and a biological female. So they want that same-sex marriages should be legalized in India. It should be given the legal recognition. Earlier, Supreme Court in Navtoj Jahar case and the Joseph Shine case decriminalized the adultery and also decriminalized the consensual same-sex relationships. Okay, so in this backdrop, few individuals have filed a petition in the Supreme Court to recognize the same-sex marriage. The Supreme Court recently issued a notice to the center on a plea, a grant of legal recognition to same-sex marriages. Okay, same-sex marriages and alliances between members of LGBTQ plus community. So this community together called as LGBTQ community, lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer, right? So this should be recognized under the Special Marriage Act. So the petition raised the absence of legal framework which allowed members of LGBTQ community to marry any person of their choice. This is a conflict between individual rights and collective social rights. Okay, so these individuals at the LGBTQ communities have been saying that this is about our marriage of choice. So therefore, our rights should be recognized and legal recognition should be given. See, one impediment, one reason of they're demanding for legalization of same-sex marriage is because even though in Navtoj Jahar case, same-sex consensual relationship has been recognized, it was decriminalized, but they cannot adopt a child because naturally they cannot have a child because this is a marriage between two male or two female. They are not allowed to adopt a child. So because of all these reasons, they want a legal recognition for their marriage. So what is a same-sex marriage? This is a practice of marriage between two men and between two women. Same-sex marriage has been regulated through law or religion or custom in most countries of the world. As of 2022, marriage between same-sex couples is legally performed and recognized in more than 30 countries have recognized the marriage between same-sex, same-sex marriages, and recent one is Mexico. So in this backdrop of a petition in the Supreme Court, let's discuss a news article regarding the same-sex marriages. So whether it should be approved or whether it is against the social structure, the existing social structure, right? So in this article, it says that Supreme Court in Suprio versus Union of India. See, just remember this case, the name of this case. This is very important. Okay, this Supreme Court in Suprio versus Union of India case has referred the matter relating to the same-sex marriages to the Constitution Bench. Constitution Bench is larger than the Division Bench. It consists of five judges. Okay, the five judges or more is considered as Constitution Bench. See, for example, if it involves a matter of law that requires interpretation, substantial interpretation of the law or constitutional provisions, Supreme Court can constitute a constitutional bench, a larger bench, to discuss this issue in a comprehensive manner. And the Suprio versus Union of India case, the Supreme Court referred this matter to the larger constitution bench. Okay, to decide whether the same-sex marriages should be allowed or not. In earlier cases, there are two cases to be, earlier cases, Supreme Court decriminalized Section 377. So what is Section 377? This was earlier criminalized the consensual sexual relationship between two same-sex individuals, either two male or two female. So Supreme Court scrapped Section 377 in Navtoj Jahar case. Right, in this case, Supreme Court decriminalized Section 377. Okay, and because the center in this case completely left it to the Supreme Court to decide uh, the Section 377. Parliament have not said anything about this, and the Parliament have not made any legislature regarding the decriminalization of Section 377. It completely left to the central government. Okay, you decide this matter. So, contrary to the Section 377 decision, the center opposes the same-sex marriages. Right, the center strongly opposes these same-sex marriages. This is the center's stand over these same-sex marriages, because the Supreme Court has asked center's opinion on the same-sex marriages. So, the core of the center's argument is that same-sex marriage does not find any recognition within India, uh, any recognition within Indian traditions and ethos, culture, social conception of the institution of marriage. Right. So this is the core of the center's argument, that same-sex marriages does not find any recognition in Indian culture, Indian ethos, Indian traditions, and India's social conception as an institution of marriage. And center also argued that so the marriage is a sacrament between a biological male and biological female, right? So this same-sex marriage amounts to the dilution of the sanctity of marriage as an institution, as in a social institution, right? So this is what the center's opinion on the same-sex marriage. So in this context, let's discuss in detail. I mean, what are the implications of demanding the same-sex marriage on this society? Okay, the language of rights. The language of rights, since it is unlikely that court will reject. I mean, court will not likely reject what center has said, center's opinion, but uh, court will also consider the social conceptualization of institution of marriage, right? So earlier we have discussed that marriage is a social institution, and the same-sex marriage is related to individual rights, individual choice. So there has been a conflict between individual choice and the collective rights of the society. So the center stand to some extent uh, is rational, and it also receive a backing on four respects. So this is what this article is when talking about. The center's response. Center says that we don't recognize same-sex marriages because it don't found any recognition in Indian traditions. So the center's decision or the center's response finds backing in the following respects. So, right, the first is the question of same-sex marriage has the potential to alter how we conceive a family, right? So traditionally, how we conceive a family, a marriage between a biological male and a biological female, and uh, uh, they together conceive a child, right? So this is the traditional marriage, and uh, this same-sex marriage has the potential to alter how we conceive a family. This family is often considered as a building block of the society. Okay, so this is a building block of the society. uh, Most conventional definitions of marriage adheres to center's conceptualization of the institution, right? Conventional definitions of marriage uh, adhere to centers. This is what the center's conceptualization of marriage. So, wait. So marriage is a socially accepted union of different individuals for procreation. Marriage is a socially accepted union of two different individuals for the purpose of procreation. While same-sex marriages are not a threat to this understanding, but uh, I mean, this requires a larger deliberation, because see, a marriage is already recognized by the society, socially recognized association, but same-sex marriages does not have a social recognition. Since it does not have a social recognition, it is viewed as a a, a stereotype, or a biased one, a stereotype. So therefore, there should be a deliberation, and there should be a deliberation at the social level, right? So still, it is considered as a evil. It is against the society. So therefore, there should be a deliberation at the social level first. And second is that the current legislative framework we have currently, the legislative framework we have does not recognizes the current legislative framework does not recognizes marriage. The uh, framework, the current legislative framework promotes the conventional understanding of marriages. So there's no separate convention. There is no separate legal framework to identify the same-sex marriages. For example, if you can see the Hindu Marriage Act 1955, the Parsi Marriage Act 1936, and Christian marriage and so the Christian Marriage and Divorce Act 1957, Muslim Personal Law, which do not have any legislative frameworks to identify the same-sex marriages, right? Uh, but there is an exception to given in the Special Marriages Act. Special Marriages Act recognizes the marriages among the interreligious communities. The Special Marriage Act. So this recognizes marriage between a man and a woman, so of different religions. So the parliament enacted this law to facilitate interreligious marriages. So therefore, the legislative intent behind the use of gender neutral language in section 4 of cannot be presumed that it is in favor of the same-sex marriages. So even the Special Marriage Act also does not have any legal framework which facilitates the same-sex marriage. Okay, the first we have discussed that uh, the same-sex marriage would alter the family structure. That was a basic building block of a society. And secondly, there is no legal framework within India to recognize the same-sex marriages. Even the Special Marriages Act also not recognized the same-sex marriages. Third aspect of it is, third rationale to back the center's opinion on same-sex marriages is it is distinct from the constitutional morality adapted in Navtej Singh Johar case, right? Understand, earlier we have discussed what is Navtej Singh Johar case. So in this case, Supreme Court decriminalized Section 377 of the uh, Indian Penal Code, right? So Section 377 says it criminalizes the consensual same-sex relationship or intercourse among different individuals, two male or two female. In this case, the Supreme Court has taken into consideration the constitutional morality, not the social morality. Okay, so social morality is different from the constitutional morality. Constitutional morality respect the rights of every individual. It hardly pays. It hardly looks into the traditions, ethos, cultures of any society. Rather, a progressive deliberation or interpretation of the Indian Constitution, right? So, in this backdrop, uh, for instance, Section 12 of the Hindu Marriage Act provides that uh, where a marriage has not been consummated owing to the importance of one of the parties is said to. For example, see, the same-sex marriage is between two individuals of same biological sex. So they will not consummate. I mean, they cannot procreate. Even Hindu Marriage Act, Section 12 says that if they are unable to consummate, if they are unable to procreate, the marriage will be considered as a voidable, right? So this is also, for example, uh, a same-sex marriage uh, is against the social morality, the existing social morality, uh, in opposition to the individual rights. So this has been discussed here in detail. So this also answers the logical question. Um, so this is not very important in this article. Uh, so what is the broader social context of this issue? What is the broader social context of the issue? The conceptual or the conventional conceptualization of family and marriage are facing evolutionary challenges. So they are facing challenges because, see, the family, once we have a joint family, and through evolution the families have become more and more nuclear families. Even within the nuclear families also, individuals, family members are becoming more and more independent. They're becoming more and more self-centered, ambitious. So therefore there has been an evolution to the conventional conceptualization of family and marriage also. And this also facing an evolutionary challenges. For example, what are the evolutionary challenges? One is globalization, nuclear families, same-sex marriage, not same-sex, same-sex, um, you know, relationships, two individuals, two adult individuals living together, living relationships. And Supreme Court also decriminalized adultery. Earlier, that was criminalized in Section 497 of the Indian Penal Code. So the idea of live-in relationship is just an ideationally confrontational to marriage as same-sex marriage. So even the live-in relationship is also in contrast to the traditional conceptualization of marriage as like the same-sex marriage. So even though it is against the institution of marriage, but the Supreme Court has judicially recognized the live-in relationships and the live-in relationship among the same-sex individuals also. So there is no social acceptability for such even for living relationships also, and consensual sexual intercourse between two adult members and same-sex individuals also. So the author is saying that the authors are saying that uh, courts have no expertise or no jurisdiction over this issue, but the legislature could bring a progressive law in this regard. It should be left to the legislature instead of this decided by the judiciary, because the legislative enactment represents the wishes and aspirations of the all the sections of the society, and it is also in conformity with the traditions, cultures, and Indian civilizational ethos, and it also does not significantly impact the rights of individuals. So therefore, the matter should be left to the legislature, and also they should be a wider legislative and social deliberation and discussion on this matter, the same-sex union, so that an appropriate uh, yeah, an appropriate consensus could be reached on this matter, and this could be settled. So this is the legislative domain, not the judicial domain. So this is what this article has been saying, right? So the next news article of today's discussion is uh, India and Bhutan relationship. Recently, Bhutan's Prime Minister made comments that because Uh, Bhutan is traditionally considered as, uh, a very close neighbor of India. You know, so even India has been providing them assistance for the implementation of their annual financial 5-year plans. You can see here uh, India's support to Bhutan for its 5-year plans. At present, the Indian government's assistance towards Bhutan's 12th 5-year plan is 4,500 crore. So India has been providing highest assistance among its neighbors to Bhutan. So uh, India provide security to Bhutan in the Indo-China Bhutan border. Especially there's a Doklam. Let's look at the Doklam Trijunction so that you can understand this better, right? So this is Bhutan. This is Bhutan, and this is the Doklam area. In 2017, there was a conflict between Indian and Chinese soldiers, right? A face-off um, before the Galwan clash. So this is called as a trijunction, and China have been building the dual-use infrastructure, even aggressively pushing their borders further into Indian side. So China wanted to capture the Doklam trijunction, right? So they wanted to capture the Doklam trijunction so that they have a strategic edge over India. For example, see, this is considered as a chicken neck corridor. Okay, this is a chicken neck corridor. If China cuts off this chicken neck corridor, if China controls this chicken neck corridor, then it would cut India's access to Northeast India, because this is a very narrow pass. This is a very narrow pass. Um, you can see how close Nepal and Bangladesh, and how narrow this region is. So therefore, China wanted to take a greater control of this Doklam region. And this is a tri-junction and a border between India, Bhutan, and the Tibetan Autonomous Region, now part of China, right? So this is a tri-junction, and China wanted to have a greater control over this region. So in this backdrop, let's first discuss this news article, and we'll come to this significance of Bhutan for India, right? Uh, Bhutan king, his name is he's a fifth king of Bhutan, uh, King Jingme Keshar Namgyal Wangchuk. He arrives in New Delhi on the invitation of President Draupadi Murmu. So, on this meet, he would meet with Indian Prime Minister and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, and they would discuss the progress in India, uh, Bhutan, China border talks. Why his visit is significant? Because um, Bhutan Prime Minister went to Europe, and with the European press, he says that they are discussing the border issue with China as well. So they made China also a party to this conflict. Earlier, both India and Bhutan together discussed this issue because they have the sovereign rights over the Doklam issue. But bringing China into this region, further indicating that there has been, uh, it will be a strategic threat for India if, uh, in case Bhutan normalizes ties with China, and even Bhutan cede any territory in the Doklam region, in the Doklam Trijunction region to China, that would give a strategic setback for India, because China would have a greater control over the Tri-Junction region, and they would easily access the Chicken Neck corridor. So, in this backdrop, the Bhutanese uh, king will, with the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, will discuss a wide range of issues, including the recent comments made by the country's Prime Minister. Why India is wary of this? In October 2021, Bhutan and China they signed a memorandum of understanding. So both these countries signed a memorandum of understanding, three-step roadmap to discuss and settle this issue as peacefully as possible. So the discussion centers on two valleys to Bhutan North. So Bhutan North and Bhutan's West. So west of Bhutan is Doklam area. Doklam Tri-Junction is strategically very important for India as we earlier discussed. So the discussions of China and Bhutan are centered around the north of the Bhutan and west of Bhutan, especially the Doklam area. So India has been particularly watchful of any possibility of swap agreement. Swap agreement that does mean that if Bhutan cedes any of its territory, especially in the Tri-Junction region, that would be a great concern for India. That would be a great concern, a security threat for India emanating from China, especially in the backdrop of Chinese assertiveness in the region. So this could affect its security at the Tri-Junction, right? We have discussed how this could affect the security at the Tri-Junction. And Bhutan and China held talks in Kunming. So earlier they hold talks about this. So the Bhutanese Prime Minister comments on discussing the Doklam Tri-Junction dispute trilaterally. Trilaterally means including China, India, and Bhutan in the Doklam issue as a equal. Earlier, Bhutan never considered China as an equal part of this dispute, but now they are bringing in China as well. So China has to an equal interlocutor set of storm in Delhi because they are also bringing in China to discuss this issue. So we already discussed that um, India has been providing assistance to Bhutan's 5-year plans. So in this backdrop, let's just understand the significance of Bhutan for India, uh, and also understand uh, right, some of the agreements signed between India and Bhutan in the past. So this is a brief overview of a boundary dispute between China and Bhutan. Just first try to understand the boundary dispute between China and Bhutan. So Bhutan and China have no formal diplomatic relations, but have held 24 rounds of boundary talks. So since 1984, they have 24 rounds of talks, right? Since 1984 to 2016, but they have no formal diplomatic relationship as of now. Formal diplomatic relationships, that does mean that each country having an ambassador of the other country, setting up an embassy, something that amounts to the formal bilateral relationship, diplomatic relationship. The talks have been concentrated on the north part of Bhutan and the eastern. So Eastern Bhutan are not part of the talks so far. Eastern Bhutan is this Arunachal Pradesh region. So as of now, the talks are on northern Bhutan and this Doklam Tri-Junction region, right? So in this backdrop, the Sakting sanctuary is very important for the examination center. The Sakting is located in Bhutan and Arunachal Pradesh also to some extent. And China stopped the funding for this project, but overruled over a period of time. So you can see the location. Just remember to with which of the Indian states the Bhutan has been sharing its boundary: Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, and Assam. With these states, in Bhutan has been sharing its border. So this is a Doklam Tri-Junction, and this is Chicken Neck Corridor, and this is the China. Okay, just remember this part. And let's just discuss the significance of Bhutan for India, right? So how Bhutan is significant? First is geographical significance. So Bhutan shares with four Indian states, Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Bhutan, and West Bengal, right? Sorry, Sikkim and West Bengal, and it is nestled in Himalayas. Bhutan serves as a buffer. It is between since it is between China and India, it serves as a buffer between India and China. So security of Bhutan. Present borders, especially its western border, is very important for India. We have discussed the Doklam Tri-Junction. The security of western border is very important for India. So, what is economic significance? Bhutan provides a market for Indian commodities and a destination for Indian investment. India invests in Bhutan, and it is also a market for Indian commodities. So, India and Bhutan both are rich sources of hydropower, hydroelectricity power. Political significance. Politically stable Bhutan is important for India. So, Bhutan is politically stable, generally a peaceful people, and the stable Bhutan is important for India. So, an unstable and restive Bhutan can provide a safe haven to anti-India activities, anti-India militant groups. Northeastern region traditionally known for militancy. Even the militants having safe havens in Afghanistan and Myanmar, and non-state actors and state actors have been providing them with financial and material support. So unstable Bhutan can provide safe havens to anti-India militant groups. So therefore, because of these reasons, Bhutan is very important for India. And both Bhutan and India will discuss this border issue, and India will put forward its security concerns on this issue. So now in this context, so now let's discuss the next news article, right? So the next news article is about the new foreign trade policy. It has been given in the Hindu newspaper. Earlier, we have discussed this new foreign trade policy, right? We'll again discuss this new foreign trade policy. What are its objectives and how it can be achieved, right? The aspiration of a new foreign trade policy seems ambitious. Okay. Um, a long delayed and refreshed foreign trade policy has finally been unveiled. Union Commerce Ministry, Piyush Goyal announced this new foreign policy. So let's just remember the target, I mean, the ambitious goal of this foreign trade policy is that it set an ambitious target of reaching 2 trillion in total exports, both goods and services. So $2 trillion by 2030 is a goal and a target of this foreign trade policy. As of now, India have achieved 760 billion exports, both goods and services, in this fiscal year. So, in this backdrop, the article has been highlighted that uh, even because I mean for 760 billion to 2 trillion is a triple the amount of exports, right? So this says that uh, since 2016, India have successfully tripled its exports. 75 percentage increase in its exports, despite being affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. First, the COVID-19 pandemic, and secondly then the Russia Ukraine disrupt. you know uh, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the supply chains were blocked, the prolonged lockdowns, and there's no industrial output, there's no consumption, no demand. So a very low economic growth rate and slowdown in the global demand and global growth rate. and followed by the COVID-19 pandemic is Russia-Ukraine conflict, where there has been uh, food crisis, fuel crisis, and that also leads to global slowdown. So, despite such a difficult phase, India achieved exports. I mean, India is able to increase its export to threefold. So keeping this in mind, the target of triple growth in our exports is fine. I mean, is a good and the ambition is achievable target. So right. So this article says, despite difficulties, India could achieve the ambitious target of 2 trillion exports by the year 2030. Okay. Um, So the National Trade Facilitation Plan, for instance, lists aims to achieve that essential and laudable, but no way novel. There's a National Trade Facilitation Action Plan, lists certain aims. So there are certain aims to achieve under the National Trade Facilitation Action Plan, right? So they are essential and laudable. So improvement in the ease of doing business is one such aim of this national trade and facilitation policy, um, and through reduction of transaction cost and transaction time, reduction in cargo release time, and paperless regulatory environment. These are some of the set objectives, set priorities through which trade could be made more seamless and it could be done with ease. Okay, right. So this article also discussed the WTO obligations on India. Uh, as per the WTO obligations, India should not extend incentives to exporters. That would amounts to the distortion of global trade. So therefore, in this foreign trade policy, what India did, India there's a shift from there is a shift from incentives to an enabling regime. So duty-free, remission, and exemption scheme. So instead of providing incentives to exporters, there will be a duty remission and exemption schemes. So this is to facilitate a duty-free import of inputs that required for production and export. That further give a major fillip to our exports. You can see this RODTEP scheme. So remission of duties and taxes on exported products. Okay. The rebate on state and central taxes and levies. See, these are some of the schemes and programs which are part of the new foreign trade policy, um, which is aimed at making the trade uh, more robust and to fulfill the set obligations and aims. Okay, and these are some of the instruments which have been discussed. And as part of this foreign trade policy, India also focused on promoting cross-border trade in digital economy. So digital economy has also been given highest priority as part of this foreign trade policy. Remember, India is traditionally known for its services exports. India maintains a surplus trade balance when it comes to services rather than the merchandise exports. So since India have the edge, the competitive edge over the services, India now looking for promoting the cross-border trade in digital economy. This include establishment of a dedicated e-commerce export hubs, right? So e-commerce export hubs, as like the special economic zones, as a separate and a dedicated hubs for the attracting investment, creation of employment opportunities, and giving a boost to exports. There will be a dedicated e-commerce export hubs will be set up as part of the foreign trade policy, so that India could emerge as a major power, a major exporting hub. Okay, and apart from this, uh, So there are certain drawbacks, there are certain shortcomings. So what are the shortcomings? Despite all these ambitious programs and all these uh, objectives, there are certain shortcomings. The shortcomings are uh, the policy does not have a sectorally targeted measures as well as defined roadmap to meet the 2030 export market, right? So this policy does not have a, for example, for different sectors, there will be a different, targets. Okay, there will be a different targets. So this plan does not have such targets, and this also does not have a defined roadmap to meet the export target, which was fixed 2030 to to achieve 2 trillion economy. Okay, a 2 trillion export target. So let's just look into the next news article. So in a first, Eraviculam National Park gets a fernarium. So what is a fernarium? Fernarium is an area with ferns. Fern is a plant species, right? So fern is a plant species like aquarium and orchidarium. This is also a fernarium where the national park will have, or a certain area will have a different ferns, right? Traditionally, let's look at the location of Ernakulam National Park. So this is the major national parks located in Kerala. So the first is Silent Valley National Park, Ernakulam National Park, second, and Anamudi Shola National Park, and Mattikettam Sholam National Park, and Periyar National Park. So these are different national parks in Kerala. So now we are discussing about the Erivikulam National Park, which is in Kerala, part of Western Ghats. Okay, part of Western Ghats. Okay. Now let's try to understand. For UPSC also, national parks are very important. For example, UPSC very often asking about the location of national parks and the states where they're located. Pakwai National Park, Namdapha National Park. UPSC earlier asked such questions. The Ervikulam National Park in Kerala. So, so this is a natural habitat of Nilgiri Thar. Okay, so Nilgiri Thar, we'll discuss about Nilgiri Thar after this. After we discuss this park, first let's understand what are a fernarium, right? A fernarium is set up inside the park. So this is the first time such a fern collection. So different ferns uh, collection is being set up in hill station, right? So overall, 52 varieties of ferns had already been planted in the new fernarium. So in this new fernarium, overall 52, this Erviculam National Park, there are overall 52 ferns. Uh, See, whenever you see a question on ferns, remember fern is a plant species, right? Here it is clearly given. Ferns are part of epiphytic family. So they are part of epiphytic family and they grow naturally. So they never grow independently. Either they dependent on the trees for their nutrients and for their food, right? For the water and nutrients, they're dependent on large trees. So they are called as ferns. So leaching from trees. So a large number of ferns are on the trees on the side of in this park. A large number of trees have these ferns. Okay. So what is the importance of ferns? Ferns were ecological indicator of healthy forest. If a forest ecosystem is healthy, there's a rich biodiversity, and the conservation and protection measures yielding results, then there's a widespread presence of ferns. Okay, the climatic conditions inside the Irviculum National Park also supports the growth of the ferns, right? So ferns naturally grow naturally in a soilless condition. So the soilless they naturally grow in a soilless condition, and for the water and nutrients they just dependent on the other trees. Through leaching, they absorb soil and nutrients. Right. So Eraviculum National Park is traditionally a habitat for Nilgiri Thar. So in this context, let's also discuss about the Nilgiri Thar. Let's look at the image of Nilgiri Thar first. So here you can see this is an image of Nilgiri Thar. This is Nilgiri Thar. Okay, so this is an endangered species as per the IUCN red list. Okay, so Nilgiri Thars are majorly found in Nilgiri Forest, Erviculam National Park, and Western Ghats. They are endemic to Western Ghats. Just remember this. So Nilgiri Thar is a stocky goat, short coarse fur, and bristly mane. So it is the state animal of Tamil Nadu. Also remember, this is the state animal of Tamil Nadu. So habitat of Nilgiri forest. Nilgiri Thar inhabits in open mountain grassland, the habitat for southwestern Ghats. Right, they live in southwestern Ghats. Distribution: the southern portion of Western Ghats, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, in southern India. So, what are the major threats? The major threats include hunting, poaching, and habitat fragmentation. Deforestation are some of the threats. So, the IUC also remember the IUCN status of Nilgiri Thar. The IUCN status is endangered. So, one step below the critically endangered status. Okay, so that's all for today's discussion. These are most important news articles given in the Hindu newspaper. Okay, thank you.